I am Carrie Walker. I'm an aging life care manager. I run a private practice called Prime Point Care Consulting, where I provide assessment and care plans for aging individuals and their families. What that means can be a lot of different things. So depending on individuals and their families, I do anything from hooking them up with legal resources, financial resources, healthcare resources, home support resources. And Stacy invited me to 1 Million Cups last year. I presented in April of 2018. And following that meeting, I had the opportunity to be contacted actually by 8 different individuals, followed up with some one-on-one meetings with just meeting people from this presentation to talk about primarily resources for my clients, looking at building possible businesses that were senior focused in this community, and ultimately just building a network of support for me growing a private practice. So for me, 1 Million Cups was super effective and has kind of built in this network of support system for me while I've built this private practice. In general, since last year, Prime Point Care Consulting had a 700% growth from 2017 to the end of 2018. So it was a great year and also an extremely painful year of growth and finding all sorts of problems, which I didn't think I had when I presented at 1 Million Cups either, to bringing on my first employee 4 months ago now, and figuring out the HR process and how to do that, and figuring out, is that going to be an admin or is that going to be specialty support? And in the process of that also, there's been mention that my husband and I now own a second business. In growing my private practice and looking for office space and growth for that, my husband and I ended up purchasing a building and opening up a co-working space because I personally wanted to have an office that was not my car, was not my dining room table, and was not a coffee shop. So we ended up growing into a workspace for myself and my employee, and then also opening up that workspace to share with other small businesses, which the gentleman who just presented was our very first member because he was growing his architect firm, and he came and saw our empty building before we even did the build out and said, yes, this sounds like a great idea, I want to sign up. So he signed up before we even had any furniture in the place. So through utilizing 1 Million Cups and being the opportunity to introduce, I've not only been able to support my private practice, but then also felt really supported by the community to know that any other entrepreneurial efforts would be supported as well. So I think anyone that is looking at doing 1 Million Cups, there's definitely a community here for support and engagement that, you know, before I did 1 Million Cups, I didn't even know really existed in Wenatchee. I was fairly new to Wenatchee and thought, yeah, opening a small business sounds like a good idea, you know, not actually having that entrepreneurial experience at all and realizing that that is somewhat insane thought. But then getting out there and realizing there is a community of people that really want you to be successful and really want to grow the diversity of businesses in Wenatchee. I was really impressed by the support and am now basically one of those people that is out there pounding it for people to get hooked up with Wenatchee Valley College for Center for Entrepreneurship, the Downtown Association, the Chamber of Commerce, getting involved with 1 Million Cups. So now I can't do anything but talk to other people about opening small businesses in Wenatchee, particularly in my realm of my passion, which is in senior services. So if there's anybody I can talk into opening other services that are focused on seniors, that'd be great. Is anyone interested? I have lots of business ideas, but don't have the ability to open any more small businesses this year. So I've had lots of conversations about possible developments of senior services. At this point, there's none that I'm aware of that are new since of April. One of the big pieces that were tough to solve for some of my clients were just the simple concept of delivery of groceries. Since April of 2018, Albertsons and Safeway in this community have now initiated delivery service, as Fred Meyers has initiated the click list and all that. So that's, for the larger companies that are here, that's fantastic that all of a sudden, in less than a year since me saying, I just need someone to deliver groceries to my client's house, that has been filled by some larger companies. I have had the conversation with a couple of colleagues that I work with in the occupational therapy department over at Confluence Health, that they've gone and received certification, what's called certified aging in place specialists. So they specialize in home modification and environment changes for seniors. And they haven't started their business yet, but Reese Vernon and her two partners are developing that company right now. So they are in the kind of growing stages and discovery stages of figuring out how to put that together. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm still crossing my fingers that someone wants to start an adult day program here in the Valley so that folks that are still choosing to live at home with their families have an opportunity to have enrichment and engagement activities on a daily basis that are outside of the home but aren't necessarily considered a facility-based care. So it's that model I'm still crossing my fingers for. I did just meet 2 new people that have opened 2 new adult family homes in the area. So that's always growing because we are overall an underbedded community for the seniors that we have here. I know that there's been a larger company, one new company, Fieldstone Memory Care, has just opened and started admitting clients as of last month, I believe. So they are now about a third full now that they opened 4 weeks ago. So, and have a waiting list of folks to move in. So I think as we see Wenatchee continuing to be written up in Forbes magazine, et cetera, of all these different top 10 places to retire, we're going to see nothing but our aging population grow. So I think any concepts of people coming in and getting very, very creative about what services can be tailored towards the aging population, I'm all for, because I'm always looking for sort of creative ideas. In fact, I had a meeting I was looking for a housekeeper because I have absolutely no time to clean my home or my office anymore. So was meeting with her, and actually the housekeeping service is developing an in-home cooking service to show up and plan meals for people that are aging in place and then come over once a week and cook meals and then leave all the meals in the refrigerator. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. And I had no idea. And so I'm hoping she finishes the development of that business idea so I can refer clients to her. Because I'm always looking for solutions of how to keep people living where they would like to live and meeting their goals and values for aging in place. So. To tell you a little bit about that person specifically, so Duff Bangs, who was just here, has mentioned his wife, Ashley. She's my new employee for kind of speaking back to how co-working space and networking works. As I never even posted the job, it was just a conversation with Duff about us both talking about how we're going to grow our business and bringing on a skilled person versus an administrative person. And I had mentioned, to Duff that really what I needed was a skilled person to take on some of the care management task. And he said, oh, my wife's a social worker. So ended up meeting Ashley and bringing her on and putting her in the role of a skilled role. So she is actually doing some of the care management work, which has taken me out of some of that client contact and put me into more of an administrative role, which frankly has been really uncomfortable and difficult and not my strong suit. I have worked in healthcare my entire life, and my area that I've always worked in is providing direct care towards the aging population, and that's kind of where my passion is. And so stepping out of that role a little bit to make sure that my clients were being taken care of and responded to in an appropriate amount of time has been really helpful to bring on that employee. And she's working for me about 30 hours a week. But that has also pushed me into a role of having to create systems, which is not my strong suit, but Ashley tolerates me well, so it's a good match. She's very entrepreneurially minded, which part of I did end up interviewing her and a handful of other folks, and she was very much into really comfortable with the idea of I didn't have here's your policy and procedural manual, here are my HR policies. It's like, I'm gonna bring you on and we're gonna kind of figure this out together. And that's working out really well so far, so I appreciate her patience with me as a manager, which is great. But bringing that on, like you were saying, having advice to begin with and then choosing that role is definitely, I'm in the thick of that right now, of figuring out if I need to bring on more of an administrative role to help with some of that, but then I haven't quite figured out how to define that job description yet or how to hand off those pieces. So I'm sort of just in the middle of trying to figure out that management and administrative piece while growing my clients, because I'm still getting new clients. So, and Ashley, who I've hired for 30 hours a week, is full. She's full up, I'm full up now. And so now my next step is, how do I take those clinical pieces that we're doing and the administrative pieces, and getting advice from other folks like Stacy, knowing that my next step is really to bring on an administrative role, and how to do that and how to have systems to hand off to that person to manage, because I have no structure yet to do that. Anybody?
Maybe you hire someone to do
To develop that structure?
Yes.
Okay. Who should I hire? Who's here? Who wants the job? Because right now I have no idea even how to be like, here, do that.
Potentially could even be a contracted service.
Yeah, yeah,
So there's some people that are really, really good at that, and they come in, bang it out of the park.
yeah,
Now you got your system, and you can run with it. But
yeah. This end of year, so 2017 end of year taxes and accounting and all that were pretty simple. And then all of a sudden this year it was not quite as simple. So I have to give a shout out to my bookkeeper, Lindsay Lunda, who holds my hand through lots of processes, and was very, very patient with me this year. So I've surrounded myself with people that are fine with me not knowing what I'm doing.
throughout it,
Who's running your co-working space?
My husband and I are,
Oh,
yeah. But that's actually honestly a much simpler model than my care management business. So that doesn't take a ton of our time really, since it's sort of a membership base.
can you tell us what it's called again?
Mission Street Commons. So we have about, I guess we have 12 members now, and you know, the space sort of runs itself. It's kind of like once people sign up, they just kind of come in and manage their own space. So there's not a lot of oversight into that, other than the fact of like keeping it clean and making sure the front door locks and unlocks when people need to come in and out. So
Do you have drop-by use of that area?
We do.
or no?
we have a day rate. If you get online to missionstreetcommons.com, there's like, you can sign up, and it just takes, you put in all your information, say, I want to come tomorrow for a day, and click, and we'll issue you a code, and you come and use the secure access code pad to come in and grab a desk.
So is that your time spent doing that?
Well, my husband is the back end for systems and IT, so he works for Microsoft remotely, so the whole running the software system and the IT purposes and secure access, that's sort of his realm of the business. So,
you used the number 700% growth.
yeah.
It's fun.
It was fun to do at the end of the year, but it also, I was like, oh, when I finally figured it out, I'm like, oh, that's why I'm kind of tired and a little grumpy.
Are you expecting that type of growth to continue?
No, that is not sustainable growth for me. I do expect to grow this year, but there's no way I could go from where I went in 2017 to 2008. There's no way I could do it. I just don't have the personal ability to do that.
How far out do you think about your business?
Oh, I'm thinking probably, my head is, how do I get it to grow, get it supported, reach an aging population, and then how do I sell it so I can retire and hang out with my husband and do nothing but go skiing and camping. But that's kind of where I'm at.
Next year?
Yeah. So,
With regard to that, when people, if the difference between a job and a business is,
Yeah.
are you replaceable? In other words, if you weren't there, would there still be enough income?
not right now.
Right, so that's why to hire the admin,
Right.
so that when someone, if I'm looking at buying your business,
Yeah.
I can't buy you, you're leaving, right?
Eventually, yes.
So if I'm buying your business and you're gone, all that's left is your 30-hour-a-week person
Right.
and your part-time admin. That's what I'm buying. So as long as you're a big piece of that middle,
Yeah, I figure though I've got a good, I'm not thinking of retiring anytime soon. So, I mean, not momentarily in the next year or two. So I kind of think about it as in like, what does it look like in 5 years? And what do I really look like in 10 years? And can from today, within 10 years, just buys me some time, can I develop a structure so that my business is something that someone could come in and buy? Or I could, because I like the idea of being in the role of mentorship, like I'm really enjoying my employee and, getting her to the point where she not only is understanding the care management piece, but the business piece, do I foresee, in 5 years bringing people on that would turn into the owner of Prime Point Care Consulting? So that's also, instead of taking it and like selling it to an outside entity, do I bring that entity in and develop that so that at some point I can slowly, maintain that mentorship role until I'm able to step out, say in 10 years. But I don't really have the answer to that yet. I don't know what that looks like, yeah.
We asked you at last April what we could do to help you.
Yes.
And it looks like we helped you.
Oh, yeah.
What can we do now to help you? Almost a year later.
A year later. I would say probably the advice of things like, how do you make that decision of stepping into the managerial role versus bringing in the managerial role? I mean, that's kind of where my conversation is going now. And ultimately, I'm not quite sure how to ask for help for that next step because I haven't decided if that's what I want to do yet. Because I find each new client that I bring on, I actually really enjoy the role of being a care manager. That's where my passion is. I really enjoy that interface with families. I enjoy that interface with aging individuals and helping them meet their goals and values of aging the way that they want. So I'm trying to figure out how much I really want to take myself out of that role versus not. The other piece I'm finding, and this is a question out to you, anyone that's growing a business and you have to step away from your clients a little bit, as I sort of hand clients off, I don't step completely out of the role because I'm the one with the geriatric care management certification. So I still oversee all of my clients, and I'm still touching base with them, but I'm finding my clients and families aren't really enjoying the being sort of that management being taken on by someone else, even though I have tons of positive feedback about my employee. So doing a great job, great communicator, good problem solver, managing all these things great, but what we'd really like to do is see more of you. So how do you balance that staying in contact with your clients while building employees?
Do you introduce her in your first interaction with your client?
I didn't when I first hired her on because my caseload was static, basically. As I'm bringing new clients on, so I just assessed a new client last week, I have introduced the fact that I have an associate, she will be assisting with this case, sort of a thing. But the other ones that I had that had been, and the ones that are having a harder time with it are the clients that were like my very first clients that I've had for 2 years. And so introducing someone into that, and I kind of did it slowly, like having her just kind of hang out with me and then start to take more of a leadership role and then letting her take some things on independently and me supporting it. So even though we've done kind of this slow transition over 3 to 4 months of her taking on clients, I would say 75%, where I'm still in 25%. There's still family and clients. We kind of pushed that direction, and now I've come back a little bit because of their requests. So figuring out that balance is, generally you're right, Adam, that very first interaction with care management is sort of an uncomfortable one. There's a lot of intimate issues to talk about. And so you're constantly sort of building this trust and rapport, and to hand off those intimate issues to now someone else is, okay. Because that has been a struggle for my employee, because we would go to meetings together and she'd be like, you have this great rapport with this family, and then she'd show up the next week and they hate her. And she's like, what's going on here? Yeah, okay.
Are you losing it? You're not losing any clients in that transition.
No,
I think that's very telling that
yeah,
you're still really thankful and bought into the service provided. And
yeah. And I have had that conversation based with families for the financial portion of that as well, having a family come back and say, my employee should cost less money than I am. So which was a really interesting conversation to have, and one I wasn't expecting.
we've all had that, I guarantee you.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, well I didn't realize, like setting the expectation for the customer, did not realize that conversation would be coming. And so then had to have the conversation of like, it's an industry standard that care management is a rate. The rate that you're getting with Prime Point Care Consulting isn't a Carrie Walker rate. it's a care management rate. It's not, so if Ashley's providing it versus I'm providing it, it's going to be billed the same. And their question was, well, you're like a lawyer, so we should be paying more for the expert lawyer versus the associate. So it was something that I hadn't set the expectation of bringing her on with clients. So it was a lesson learned now when I bring on new clients, I have that conversation. So those families that have come back and said, we just want more of you, I have had that conversation of, basically that Ashley and I sit down every week and have a caseload review and talk about all of the issues that are going on with all the families. All of the communication, text, emails, you name it, I'm CC'd on, so I'm following everything that's going on. So if something does queue up and I'm like, okay, you're going to want to ask this, you're going to want to plan for that. So looking at that expertise too it's settled those. It was basically 3 families that had those questions, has settled that down a little.
We're getting 2 instead of 1, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's a different problem to solve right now because I'm like, oh, financially I'm spending all this time on the case anyway, but then paying Ashley to spend all this time on the case anyway. So figuring that out too, yeah.
So as my business continues to grow, my default is to take on all these new tasks.
Right.
What have you found that you've been able to effectively outsource either to your new employee or more, I guess my question is more, what have you been able to outsource outside of your company that has effectively worked and that you think you'll continue to outsource?
Right now I'm in the process of Intuit taking on payroll services because I really, even though I only have 1 employee, it's an area that I really don't enjoy, is sitting down and figuring out payroll twice a month. I don't know why. It seems like a simple task, but I hate it. And it's painful. I don't know why it's painful as an entrepreneur to write a check to somebody else. It might be because of that discussion, as I feel like I'm still overseeing both of the cases. It's not that she's not doing a great job, but it is that like, oh man, I just paid someone 30 hours a week for the whole month to do that. Like, oh my gosh, like, how do I make that sustainable? So Adam said, what one thing will motivate or fascinate me for the rest of my life?
A song from Dance Hall.
What?
Dance Hall.
Oh, nice. It's a great question. And it's funny, I would, yesterday or, a year ago, I would have said, serving the aging population, because that has always been my passion. It's where I started working when I was in high school, and it's just where I've stayed my entire career now that I'm almost 50. So I would have said absolutely that, but I have found in the last couple of years that I really enjoy the mentorship and developing people too. Not that I'm great at it yet, but I know that it's an area that I'm really enjoying. So it might be that. I'm not sure yet. So time will tell. I'll come back next year and let you guys know where I'm at.